Hello and welcome to another edition of the Buddy Martin Show. I am the Buddy Martin and glad to be with you tonight. It's a Wednesday. That means Thursday, Friday. We got football Saturday. Can you believe it? Are you ready? I think you are. We all are. I'm having visions of what might happen on Saturday against the Hurricanes. And I got a few Miami stories to tell as well. Maybe you got some. Coming along shortly will be Allie Pete Wilbur. She's doing her own show tonight first. She'll join us then. Then we have Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, and our buddy out in Dallas, Dan Bond. Yes, Bond. I'm Bond. Will tell us the game called Twister, which factors in on the special teams. That's going to be kind of a fun story. Ever played Twister? I bet you did. Most of us did. So stand by. You can give me your picks tonight or whatever you like to do, as you do so well on this program with your message for it. So come and join the Buddy Martin Show. It's time to get it down to the fine lines and fine points of football. What's your theory? Gators win? And if so, how? Come join us right here on the Buddy Martin Show.
Buddy Martin, call him up and tell him what you're thinking, but be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating.
Evening. How you doing? Good to see you jumping on here early. Lots of good comments to make tonight. We got some football things to talk about. And if you're like me, I've been sitting there thinking about this scenario and that scenario and what happens if this happens. It's been so long since we've seen football to talk about real football. And I have the feeling we're going to see a different team in Florida. The problem is, are they good enough to win against the teams on their schedule? I'm still scratching my head and wondering exactly how they became a 2.5-point underdog at the Swamp. I heard today, I think I heard Chris Storing say this on his XM Series show, that, and I think somebody else wrote it, that this is the second time Florida's been an underdog in the opening game. I can't remember the first, maybe you can. So it's not very often this happens. And as we talk about the scenario, we all know what the Swamp is like. And as Chris so aptly described it today on XM Series, we're sitting on top of a sinkhole, basically. The Swamp, the field is under sea level, underground. And of course, not to say about the heat. The heat is oppressive, especially this time of year when it gets muggy. People say, oh, yeah, it's hot in Miami. It's hot in Miami. They don't play in a hole there. It's different. And so add that in with the crowd being right on top of you, as you know. It's a different kind of stadium. It's going right down on top of you, as opposed to being spacious and open. And the noise level is going to be, well, if Billy Napier has his way, keeps coaching the crowd to make noise. And you see what happened in the opening game, the Florida State debacle, and the game that they lost to Georgia Tech. The headsets went out. When one team's go out, the other team has to give theirs up. And it's going to be hard enough to hear with or without a headset. I think harder, because you see guys holding their hands like this and trying to say, I was telling somebody they ought to get a megaphone for their ears. It's going to be hot. Cam Ward, I'm sure, is a very fine quarterback. I'm not knocking his skills. I've not seen him play. He can't be Peyton Manning, I don't believe. And so he's going to have the experience of playing an SEC team in one of the most iconic stadiums in the whole in August. And it's going to be different. It's going to be loud. And I don't understand why this is not at least a pick'em game. But what do I know? The guys in Las Vegas are the ones who decide that based on how the betting goes. I've not seen the line change, have you? I've been seeing it at 2.5 since the beginning of mankind. So it sets up for quite a day and quite a game. And today I lapsed into some memories. I started thinking about Miami games I've seen. And I wrote a column on GatorBait. You can go to GatorBaitMedia.com. And I wrote some stories about the Miami series that I don't think everybody knows. And one of them in particular, I think, is they don't know about is you heard about the Florida flop. Well, you've heard about it, but you don't know about it like I do. Why? I was standing on the sideline in real time when the decision was made to fall down and let Miami score. Why would you do that? If you know the story, Miami was holding the ball away from John Reeves and trying to keep him from setting a passing record against them. They're behind by, I think, 17, 18 points, making no attempt to score, handing the ball off in the fourth quarter down to 2.5 touchdowns. And there was an urgency to get the ball back to John Reeves because he only needed one more completion, I think of 17, 18 yards to set the all-time NCAA passing yardage record for his career. And Miami, by God, was going to keep it from him. The conversation that took place on the sideline in real time, can't do this today. I was on the sidelines talking to some of the players that I knew while this was going on and even suggested perhaps they might want to allow the score. I'm not saying I was the reason. I'm just saying I was involved in it. Now, my take on that particular thing is different than people who called it a disgrace, poor sportsmanship. Poor sportsmanship is holding the ball away from a guy to keep him from having a record, not trying to win the game. So the biggest misnomer about that game was it was an act of poor sportsmanship. No, it was not. It was something that Doug Dickey, who was not known for his generosity of spirit when dealing with players, and he had a tough couple of years coaching John Reeves, and a moment, and a gratuitous moment, by the way, and a moment when he did something generously and allowed his quarterback to try to set the record and had to do something that he'd be blamed for. He took the heat, told the team to let him score. Unfortunately, what happened, the way they fell down and flopped, all but one player, there's a picture of it online, I've got it in my column. One player stood up and a chin dropped, and the guy scored. And then Florida got the ball back, and John Reeves threw the pass to Carlos Alvarez. Love the great Carlos Alvarez. For the record, it was a joyous night and an otherwise unfortunate ending to what the Super Sox team of '69 was. Camelot had gone south, and that rejuvenated it just for a moment. It was a wonderful night. I happened to have been there. So that's the story. That's the real story on the Florida flop. And that sort of led me to the idea that I had been thinking about of doing another book on things like this and trying to bring insight of something I knew because I was there experiencing it. And I thought I'd put in with that my experiences on the first SEC Skywriters tour, which I was on. Think about this. 21 guys on an airplane, a DC-6 that was decrepit bucket of bolts, flying around the conference to publicize the schools and give them some regional publicity in the SEC, a 10-team league that was not nationally respected like it is today, and trying to generate some publicity. And the things that took place, and this early band of typewriter jockeys, as I call us, carried the spear for the SEC. And look what's happened to it today. How many years that's since '66? Today it's blown up in this gigantic conference, the dominant conference, eats us young. I mean, now 16-team conference. It's going to be an amazing year. And I am agreeing with the people who say this will be a remarkable year for college football. Don't know how it's going to turn out. We always think we do, we don't. But I'm, for one, who can't wait to see it get started. So that's what I'm thinking about. And I've got my Miami stories, and I'm going to put them together. And I will. They're on my first in my book and my first column on it today. So check that out too. By the way, if you know about Franz Beard, all the best to him and his parents. His stepfather is very ill tonight. They almost lost him, and he's not been able to be on the shows or writing the stories, whatever he normally does this time of year. So thoughts and prayers for Fran's Beard. Allie Pete Wilbur will be along. She is doing her own show tonight before this show, and very likely it ran over. And she'll be here shortly. And then in about 15 minutes or 20 minutes, we'll have Tony Barnhart talking about the rest of the league and talking about things that Tony knows as Mr. College Football. Yeah, I've got Dan Hicks. Dan Hicks, I'm thinking about Dan Hicks of NBC getting the Notre Dame job. Dan Bond, who's been writing some great stuff this week, to join us on the show and tell us about his story. He's got a story on the twist tree, Matt. You know about it? Yeah. It's being used by special teams. Now, since all my guys are off tonight, I hope we have the right link to everybody and everybody can get through to us, because sometimes they can't. We'll certainly hope so, because we've been known to be done in by technology. But I see all of you are online, and that's great. A nice crowd tonight. We'll go for it. Hey, if it's just you and I, we'll do that. And we'll take some of your comments, by the way, as well. Want to hear from you and your thoughts. One thing, a little note, I am going to be telling my Miami stories on Paul Finebaum Show. I'll be on with Finebaum on Friday afternoon at 6:30 from down in the campus of Florida. I got a call today, myself and Pat Dooley did, to see if we would want to appear with Paul on Friday. We said, of course. So I'll be joining Paul on Friday from down in the swamp. So, by the way, evening to David Baldoff, dilly to you. Robert Turner's back. Michael Burton. Becky Carlisle, used to be the poll sitter every night, is in the house. Buck Wade, good to see you back. JLB, thank you very much. Well, that's a nice comment. I'll put that up. I'll take a compliment once in a while. And that's very nice. Appreciate that. We enjoy doing it. Enjoy it. Michael Burton says he loves the hat. Need to have visors made up. We tried that once before. I think the visors belong to one man. But we're not in the paraphernalia stuff business. We have a few things. Brendan sells a couple of shirts online on GatorBait. I don't get involved in it, but if that's something we have a demand for, we'll do that. Toby Permiter, nice to see you again, Tony. Toby, Dan Bond, come on, Dan, and sign on. Let's see what else. What else we hear comments? Alligator Peak and Mr. College Football. That's correct. Speaking of which, in this story I'm talking about, I told 3 stories about Miami game. I've had lots of experiences. I've been going to them for so long. Back in the day, it used to be a train that left from Ocala to Miami, and Gator fans would take it. And I picked 1963 to go with a man named Gene Peak. He's the doctor and the father of Gene Peak, the football player, and the grandfather of the All-American tight end from Alabama, transfers from Tech, and caught the winning touchdown pass in the championship game. And I went to Miami with Mr. Peak, Dr. Peak, and visited. And that day, it was the day after, believe this or not, after the Kennedy assassination. Talk about a weird time. That was it. And for some reason, something struck me real funny. I wrote about it and stories about the Miami series. The coach from Miami came out before the game, took a PA mic on the field, and began to give a pep talk to the crowd and started leading cheers. Now, I guess it's okay. It's their home game. They can do what they want to. I've never seen it before. I've never seen it since. So just a few little oddities like that I'm going to talk about. And, of course, the big thing is the game, the Florida flop. We'll talk about that as well. All right, so let's see. Miami had a breeze. Swamp doesn't. It's true. Freddie Weeby, dilly too. It's very nice to hear from you. I hope he is Peyton Manning about it. He's never beat us. Michael Burton, Tommy Sue, good evening. Wear blue. Release their uniform combo and tell us it's all white. There's a controversy going on I don't usually get into those kind of things because I'm not a uniform guy. I know the all blue and all that stuff. If you don't know about it, you probably should. Somebody at the University of Florida decided to be an all white night. Now, I guess they call it a white out in other places, but they just decided everybody should wear white. Well, it didn't work out so well. I think Miami's wearing white. Even Robbie Andrew, who never says boo, came online and tweeted, "What are they doing? Some numbskull. We're all blue." So I'm asking to see what you're going to show up. And I think if my shirt's coming in, I'll have either a blue or a white, a Jordan shirt, GatorBait, and I'll be wearing that for me. I don't get into it too much. Okay, Dan Bond's having problems getting in. That's not a good thing. I hope, let's see if I can go and help him out. That means others may not either. So I'm going to try this while we're talking and go in and see if this works. Because sometimes we get bogus links. And this could be one of those bogus links. Hold on while I try this. Let's see if we can get it going. Apologize, folks, but this technology is way above my pay grade. And every time I get it, it kind of gives me angst. So let's see if I can do this. Go in here and do a new thing here. And I'm going to see if I can send this to Dan Bond. And who knows, I guess I might be able to get it tonight. Allie might not be able to get it tonight. So hold on. If not, we'll do a phone thing. And then we'll get through it somehow. But give me a minute to see. I'm producing and talking and trying to do both. Let's see if I can get to this. This is the other link I'm going to try to other people, to Dan Bond. Hope you're having a good week, folks. Hope your week goes well and you have fun. Go to the game. Try this link and see if it works. Here. Okay. All right, Dan, I'm sending you a new link. We'll see if this works. The last one didn't seem to. If not, we'll call him on the phone. All right, let's see now. Let's do one more of these. To Allie, she might be having the problem. Same too. Try her the link. That's why you have no producers. Try this link. I've got pictures in my mind of what I think might happen for Florida. What do you see happening in the play? Yeah, I see you, Dan. I know you are. I'll try this one. And I'll try Tony Barnhart. And if we don't get him, we'll call him as well. Yeah, I see a big play happening on defense in my mind. Try this. I'm going to take a break and pull my hair out. And then I'm going to see if I get a hold on the phone. So stand by while we do this. And then I will, let's see here. All right, let me do this, the commercial up. And let's hear from Jeffrey Meldon. He has a story to tell. And he's had a wonderful trip. It's his birthday this weekend. I hope Jeffrey's going to have a wonderful birthday party. I intend to be there. Let's see if we can get him on.
Yeah.
Happy birthday in advance. Jeffrey's finally going to hit 50. He's been all these years. He's finally going to get to 50 years old. He misspent you for the first 49. Now he's going to make it right.
That's right. Hey, you're absolutely right, buddy. I'm 50 in my own mind.
That's all that matters, man.
And you too.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking I'm 55, maybe, or maybe 60. But listen, happy birthday on that. Now, let's get down to business. Meldon Law doesn't mess around. You did something terrific for the Florida band, man. Tell me about it.
Well, about 3 years ago, our dear friend Freddie Wiebe comes to us and said, the University of Florida won't buy the band a box truck to move their equipment around in. And when they go to Florida State, they go to Jacksonville or whatever, they don't have any, they have to rent trucks and stuff like that. So we collaborated and we put together a deal where we provided them a beautiful big box truck. and we wrapped it and with Meldon Law and the UF band. And by the way, the UF band was voted the best band in the country in August of 2023.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you hear about Ohio State.
Yeah.
And they're wonderful and all, but the UF band is exceptional. Jay Watkins, the director, does a great job. So anyhow, we went from the box truck to doing that commercial with me. Jeffrey wants to play in the band, right?
Yes.
So, and that may be my favorite commercial.
Made you very big too. But I think that and the tango maybe probably did you more good than anything.
Well, Freddie and I are working on our follow up to.
I hate to think about that might scale Mount Everest or something.
I mean, really, what I want to do is have a real life band playing for a Gator game, playing Tom Petty's "Won't Back Down," and have my son and I run out of the tunnel and wave to everybody.
I like that idea. Sure, let's do that. All right, I think we've got Dan Bond. Let's go really and see how you got in. Some magical way. Hello, Dan. How you doing, buddy?
Hello. How's it going?
Good. Which link did you use, the first or second?
The second one worked for me.
Okay, for some reason the other one did not. All right, fine.
Yeah.
Let's just make sure the others got it. I read your Twister story. It's going to be fun. And tell folks about this because there is a mat and it is being used by the Gators. I got the idea from the special teams coach who used it in New England. Let me let you tell the story of how Twister fits into the game plan for the Florida coaches.
Right. So it's been around, it's nothing new, but, I think it just adds a little layer to organization. So you've got the 10 dots, and then the 11th dot is the specialist, the kicker, or the punter. That way you know how many people are going to be on the field, and you know that there aren't two guys that have the same jersey on because they're right there in front of you. And that will hopefully eliminate some of that. And now the analysts can go on the sideline. And so that's going to help a lot with Howard down there to keep an eye on things for special teams. I'm just thinking that was kind of a one-off from last season. It was definitely a disaster and a confidence crusher in that first game when you had Utah punted, and then you had the two number 3s on the field. And I was like, I never even heard of that rule till then. And so that's to help control some of that. So that's going to be, a big help, I believe. Obviously it comes down to the kids and the coaches keeping their head straight during the game. And that's just a little added piece. They've done that in the NFL. They've done it in other colleges. A lot of the home teams have the dots painted on the sideline. So I believe
I don't know about this. Is all news to me. I don't know about
it. So a lot of the home teams just have them painted on there because they're there and they don't have to travel with it. But apparently it's just going to be the mat that you spike into the ground where they're going to meet at about half, about 50-yard line ish, where that'll be the special teams area. And you'll see them gather there and launch pad onto the field. So, anything to help the kids keep their mind on the game. A lot of folks tend to forget what's going on at such a big critical moment. As fans, you get upset about that, but it happens. They were Shane had Gino Toretta on today on his show, and he was talking about they'd send in, and Shane I think mentioned it too, as far as they used to run plays in with just the receiver, and sometimes the receiver would come into the huddle and you're like, I forgot what the play was, just in those few moments, but then you can kind of wing it from there. But yeah, definitely having a little launch pad there will help. So I kind of wrote about that, took a little picture of the Twister mat. I don't know if that's going to make the cut, but it was fun.
Yeah,
I
like
writing it anyway.
I like the picture, and you had fun writing it. And again, it's a fun story. Those are the kind of stories I like. Sometimes when it's so serious about everything. Sometimes we need a little. I did not know about the twister, Matt. I may be the only one who didn't, but I didn't know about it. And so I would go for anything. I would have gone for pinning a note to their uniform
Right.
with a map that says bench, field, whatever last year to get them on the field right.
Right.
And I understand it's not as simple as it sounds when you're moving bodies around like this with precise precision to be a special place, a special time, and dealing with 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. And there's chaos on the sideline. Then somebody gets hurt, it's not there. I know this could happen, but it happened too many times for the Gators. And also the idea of having two guys on the field the same number, that just shouldn't happen. I hate it when they started giving out duplicate numbers.
Right.
I hate that, and I just wish they. But hey, look, I mean, it's got to change. I'm an old guy who likes things like they are, but things do have to change. So,
Yeah,
I
mean,
know
you had
you.
the illegal procedure against Arkansas. I mean, that backed him up 5 yards, and he just barely missed that kick. So, I mean, you can say that did or did not cost that game, but I believe it cost the game at those extra 5 yards.
Yeah. Well, anytime, yes, for sure. When you change the situation, adds pressure. All right, so now we'll be joined shortly by Tony and Allie, who's did her own show tonight first. But before we get there, tell me, you're a diehard fan. You live in Dallas. You put up with a lot of smack talk. You got all these Texans coming at you.
Oh yeah.
What's life like behind the enemy lines in Texas?
Yeah, you're getting a little more buzz now that Texas and OU are in the conference. I would say the Texas people are a little more mouthy than the Oklahoma people. We have probably about just as many, even though, we are in Texas. Dallas is only an hour and a half from Oklahoma, and you do have a lot more folks from there, I would say, in Dallas. It's kind of a melting pot. But, they run a little bit of smack with Oklahoma. You've got such a dynasty in all the other sports besides football. So I'll hear a lot of that because I'm always wearing stuff from gymnastics or softball, just walking around, and people come up to me and talk about it. But a lot of, everyone's excited about Austin, going down to Austin. That is just going to be a humongous weekend. If you're in the area or if you're heading down, come on down. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of places to eat down there. It's a cool place to check out is Austin. I mean, pretty much every college town has its little niche and things that I love. And that's something that I do like living in the center of the country that I am so close to many SEC schools now, more so than say in Jacksonville, Florida, which is crazy. When I moved out here in '08, I'd never have thought I'd be so close to so many
Yeah.
SEC teams.
Well, I got to
Which is
say,
fun.
Austin's very cool. I've been there many times. I say many, 6, 7 times, and I really like it. I've always liked Austin, and I've not been to Norman. I think that's one of about 3 major stadiums I've not been to. Don't know why I never went to Norman. Even when I was in Colorado, they played up there. But anyway, that will be interesting to see. That does bring a different look to it. And and I'm not the be all end all on this, but Texas is good enough to play in the SEC. We obviously know that. Are they good enough to dominate? Probably not. And here's why. Not that they aren't good enough. The program's great. Sarkisian is a heck of a coach. But you're not playing some of the patsies you play every week. When you play a heavyweight every weekend, except maybe 1 or 2, and you get pounded over the period of time, it's like, I've said this many times, it's like body shots for a boxer get hit in the kidneys, It wears you down, it beats you up, and it has what I call a residual impact. So I think it will be different, and we'll see what happens there. Tony
None
Barnhart,
of these, even if you go way back, none of these expansion schools have won the title. It's all kind of the status
Right.
quo as far as that goes. If you look back to it, a few of them have made to the championship game, but A&M's just kind of happy to be here, in my opinion. But it's a nice change. The facilities are great in both towns. When you go, you'll really like that aspect of it is nice. So I'm looking forward to that.
Very good. Here's Mr. College Football right here in front of us there.
Yes, sir. How's it going?
Greetings, gentlemen. How are we?
Hello to Dan. He's just saying goodbye.
Right.
He's
All
doing a story on, has written a story on the twister mats used by special teams. I guess that's something that's been common. I didn't know about it, but
I have no idea what that is.
see, there you go. You say everybody knows about
Dan, you can educate all of us. So
Mr.
They're
that's
just,
good.
the
Football.
special
He
teams,
doesn't know
the
about.
numbered
I'm
special
not the
teams.
only
Map.
young stupid over here.
Yeah, I've seen those mats where they.
Yeah,
Everybody, hey, Joe, you're on 2. Go stand on 2. Okay, I got it.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So, what did you say in your story? Left foot blue or something?
Right. Yeah, I just kind of made a little joke about it. You spin the little wheel on Twister, and it's like left foot blue, right foot yellow. Go stand here and go do this and don't mess up. It's kind of what I put in the article. Maybe had a little fun with it with that angle of it.
Yeah. So Tony and I going back, they used to stuff the footballs when we first started farming, and they had leather helmets, and we do this. Me especially, and Dan is a newcomer does a great job for us. He's a fan. He writes wonderful stories on things like gymnastics in a way that I've never seen it written. And Tony, I don't know about you, but I don't think I'd be very good at writing a gymnastics story.
I don't think so. I got a granddaughter who is into it big time.
Yeah.
And she enjoys it a lot, and obviously enjoyed the Olympics. So I've learned to appreciate the ladies and what they can do out there.
Yeah,
it's big in Dallas. There's every roster has some kids from Texas.
Well, the SEC has become the top gymnastics conference in the country, and
right,
a lot of talented ladies come there.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Dan, we'll say good night to you, buddy. Thank you very much for a great job. And we'll talk to you again soon. Look for your story around the Twister tomorrow. Okay. Twister, man. All right. Anything to help they'll be able to count to 11. Okay, Dan?
Right. Thank you.
How are you? Our good friend Allie, who normally is on with me, she had her show tonight and it went over. So she's not. So it's just Tony and me tonight for a while.
The 2 old guys.
2 old guys. Boy, it's good to see you, Tony. Really good to be with you. I heard you on Rob Brown's show. Did a good job there. And,
we were in Memphis the other night speaking to the Memphis Touchdown Club, and Rob was there and had a chance to visit with him a little while.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
he's an old soul. He loves writers. He loves the things that we used to stand for back in the day. What has been the biggest surprise to you of anything you've heard so far, and anything that any changes? Because we don't even know yet how impactful these changes are going to be. They're going to be quite impactful.
What I've said as I tour around, buddy, I said I can't promise you this is going to be the best college football season we've ever had, but I can promise you this: it's going to be the most interesting college football season we've ever had, because of the 12-team playoff, no divisional play, on and on and on. The game is going to be different, and the 12-team playoff is going to completely change the way that we consume college football. It's completely let's take Florida State. They got their butts kicked pretty good the other day by Georgia Tech up front. But the fact of the matter is, if they come back and win the ACC championship, they're going to be the number 3 seed or number 4 seed in the college football playoff. It's as simple as that, because they did not lose anything other than a little margin of error for that game against Georgia Tech.
Yeah, for sure. This is off topic for the moment, but it's just something that I've thought about a lot, and it bothers me, and I shouldn't. But I'm not real happy with these yoga pants that they wear. It looks like something. It looks like what we used to call Bermuda shorts back in the day.
Right.
It just doesn't look like football. And I know they all say, I don't know why it should bother me. Does it look sissified to you?
I have quit being involved in fashion statements a long time ago. I really, of the things I don't care about, that's really right up there where I don't care. Now was it you wrote the other day, buddy, on Twitter or somewhere, or fans that we're going to have with the guy driving the Lamborghini, or
That
Well,
was
no. The guy drove up. In
Hey,
his new NIL car, right?
yeah, and it's Florida
Yeah.
player. It's a wide receiver for the 4-star they got line now. I mean, I just asked the question. He rolls up in the Mercedes. Good for him. And he gets two big guys sitting out of the front seat. They open the door for him, and he gets out, and he got his usual bling on with a goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I get all that, and it shouldn't bother me. I'm not jealous of it. It just seems a little garish to me. And I know I'm probably in the minority. So who cares what he does as long as he commits to the Gators? I get it. And I'm old fashioned, and I got to learn to accept it. But I just had to ask if anybody
Right.
else saw it or cared.
No, it's a fair question, but the answer to your question is you have no choice. If you're a fan, you have to get used to it because this is the way. This is like it's still you still get 4 downs in football to make a first down. This is not going to change. NIL is not going to change. It's going to be here.
I'm not against NIL. I think it's good. I've been in favor of that from day one. I like it.
It's just a fashion statement the players are making. That
I don't mind the fashion. I can live with that. I just think the way you enter, you start you're not even on the team yet. You roll
Right.
up in a Mercedes. That's fine if you're driving. And you have a driver and a bodyguard. I don't know. It just
oh
seems
my.
anyway, that's
Is this a great country or what? I mean,
yes. Hey, I guess I just had to sit back and watch it and keep my mouth shut, right?
well, we are. They're not doing this for us, buddy. We understand that.
No,
We are here.
our time is passing. So I did a story today, and Tony, I have a working title of another book.
Good.
I talked to my agent about it. He said, "Well, put it together. We'll see." And it's not going to be a Steve Spurrier George Towns bestseller, and I don't want it to be just about my life. But when you size it up, Tony, with all the things you've done in your career and your life, and the people you've met, the places you've been, you've done a lot of interesting things. And I used to get this from a lot of people. So you should write that. Well, people don't care. And I thought to myself, I have seen some things that others have not.
Right.
And I'd like to be able to try to bring insight if I've got it.
I've thought about that as what I'm trying to figure out what the next book's going to be after 19 of Green, and right, I don't really want it to be about me, but I'm like you. I know I've seen a lot. Before Vince Dooley's last game, for example, he invited me to sit down. I wanted to sit down with him anyway because it was right before his last game in the Gator Bowl against Michigan State. And he said, "Well, just come to the room and we'll sit and we'll talk for a while." While I'm talking to him, the phone rings and it's Fred Akers, the former Texas coach, who Georgia beat in the Cotton Bowl for the national for a big win in '83. Right. And Fred Akers was calling Vince Dooley, Coach Dooley, because he was interested in the Georgia job, which is now open. Okay, and they hadn't hired a coach, and I said, just the fact that I was sitting with Vince Dooley when all that was going on. And,
right.
So
I would think something about Vince Dooley would be your calling.
Well, I've already done a book on him. We did his autobiography. There's a lot of different things that I've done.
Things that you were involved in with him that would be interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I'm like you. We've been fortunate to have the opportunity to see things that other people don't get to see. And we may or may not write about them, but it's been an interesting ride. It really has.
Well, there's two things. I'm going to bring Allie. I see she's just popping on here. Two things that came to my mind. That one is the Skywriters tour. Being on that first Skywriters tour in 1966. When you think about the paradigm of this thing, when the conference didn't get a lot of respect in some places in this country. Right. The SEC was looked down upon by Big Ten people, right? And you get 21 guys on this little DC-6 bucket of bolts flying around to all the SEC schools, meeting with the coaches, the players, and the SEC had Scoop Hudgens. As somebody once said, I think John Logue, if Scoop Hudgens would have been involved with mafia. It had been a disorganized crime. And I love Scoop, was a great guy, but he was the organizer of it, and it was just sort of, anyway, loosely put together, and it was the early seas of the SEC media days.
Right.
These columnists, and you knew them all. You could name them all.
Oh,
You know,
I see. I did mine. But when I got to the SEC, when I got to the AJC and then started covering the SEC in 1984, the Writers Tour was over. But I did a bunch of them when I was in Greensboro, North Carolina, covering ACC football and basketball. Although we did ours in a Greyhound bus, and I always like to tell people, Greyhound bus is, half one side of the luggage rack there was luggage, and the other side of the luggage rack there was beer, and so it was a long running tour. We had a blast. Some of it I could actually write about. So yeah.
Yes. People think of the SEC. Good evening to you, Allie. How you doing? Thanks.
Hi, how are you? Hey, Tony.
Hi, Allie.
The people think, well, that was a blast, that SEC scouting industry. No, it wasn't. It was 10 and 12-hour days writing full stories,
hard work,
jumping around. There wasn't not any time for a beer, I mean, now later on, some of the other guys perfected it. Guys like David Lamb and RIP and whatever had a little different schedule. But it was a workathon,
It was.
And, but to think about the fact that it was so, we were going around typing on typewriters, sending our copy by Western Union.
Yep.
And here we were, and here's this conference, which becomes the biggest thing in all of sports now. Today, the SEC is so huge. And look what it was back in '66. So just the enormity of its growth, I think is kind of fascinating,
All right, poor Allie saying I'm talking with these two old guys talking about the old days.
No, I love it.
She's a gal who liked, probably if you use that phrase, who liked sports writers.
Right.
She had Pat Dooley columns on her wall when she was 12 years old.
Well, then I'll give you one more story. Okay. This week, Georgia Clemson is the anniversary of Kevin Butler's 61-yard field goal to beat Clemson in 1984. I had just taken the Georgia beat for the AJC. I'd been living in Athens for a month, get ready to play Clemson. And my goal, buddy, when I was growing up was to work for a big newspaper and get to know Furman Bisher. I wanted to meet Furman Bisher. Yeah. That was my goal.
Tell Allie who he was.
When I sat down for that game in 1984, Jesse Outler, the columnist for the Atlanta Constitution, was on my right, and Furman Bisher was on my left. And I said, Lord, you can take me now, because every one of my dreams just came true. But Kevin Butler's lining up to kick a 61-yard field goal to beat Clemson. Furman Bisher looked at me. He said, can he make this? I said, Furman, I've seen him kick it a lot longer in practice. And Kevin Butler made it with 10 yards to spare. And Bisher said, well, that's pretty good, kid. And so I said, well, it helps if you go to practice.
That's something Furman never did. And by the way, Allie, to us, I speak mostly for myself, but Tony is a little bit younger. Going into the press box on a perfect Saturday, for a day game, and looking around at all these icons of journalism on these rows here was like going to Cooperstown.
Yeah,
it was really amazing to sit there thinking, I'm sitting next to Furman Bisher or whoever. The story I love, there was a guy in Addison, Alabama named George Smith, one of the original skywriters, a funny guy. He would tell the story. He would go to these SEC games, take his typewriter and a trash can. And he was sitting up there one day, and Furman Bisher was in the front row. It was a big game. And Furman would type and stop and turn up and throw in the garbage can, and type and throw in the garbage can. He said, I'm sitting there thinking about, I'm struggling on my lead. He said, there's 5 things in that garbage can better not anything I could ever write. So it was just such a magical time, wonderful place to be. Allie, you're old school, you're old soul, a young lady, but you knew you came from that era, but you knew those people. And you had a little bit of an affinity for the writers.
Oh, absolutely. I joke that I was the only 12-year-old girl whose wallpaper was, writings from you guys, pinned all over my bedroom wall. And I know I've told you this before, buddy, but I used to write to Hey Tom, to Tom McEwen every single week. And he would call my dad and say, I cannot print her every single week. You have got to tell her, please don't take offense to this, but I can't print her every single week. But you guys, they are the titans of this industry. And it was so cool as a little girl to learn about the sport that I loved through print. And it does make me sad, honestly, that my kids don't have a newspaper that's stopped on our driveway every single day, because I read the sports page cover to cover every single day.
Yep.
And I do hate that we have gotten away from that. I have one of my daughters is an avid reader, and I asked her, hey, do you want a Kindle? Because her birthday was coming up, and she was like, no, I have to touch the pages.
Right.
There you go.
I was like, okay, I've done my
bravo.
I'm the only person in my neighborhood, as far as the eye can see, that takes a newspaper. So I walk out there, have a long driveway, and I walk to the front of the driveway and get it, and people drive by and go, what an idiot. I mean, this guy, what is that in his hand? Is that a newspaper?
Let's have a dog.
And why does he have that when it's all online? So yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Elliot. That made my day.
Yeah, that's great stuff. I love this, and I told Allie I started this by talking about some of the old Miami stories I have. I wrote about it today in my column. Not the least of which the famous Florida flop. History has it wrong. People have written about it wrong. I was there on the sideline in real time, talking to the players as they were trying to decide what to do to go talk to Coach Dickey. Harvard Clark, I was talking to him. And the whole thing was, well, Dickey is such a poor sport. Now, look, I criticize Doug Dickey for a lot of things, but never this.
Yeah.
Because he was trying to do something for his players.
Yeah.
You know the story, and yes, it was Fran Kershey, for someone who asked about that. And I like Fran too, by the way. And he needed about, I don't know, I'm going to just say 25 or 26 yards for John Reeves to have the all-time passing record. If you knew anything about John Reeves and the rough time he had in Florida his last 2 years with Carlos Alvarez, this was their final game in Miami. And they were beating Miami by 18, 19 points. Miami had the football and was making no attempt to score and handing the ball off to Chuck Foreman every time. They weren't trying to score. They were trying to keep the ball from Reeves to get the record. Now, when I ask you which is more a poor sport,
right?
Why would you do that? And so I was standing there when this happened, and I saw it in real time. And I said, I criticized Dickey a lot, especially for how he handled Reeves and Alvarez. But the one thing he did for his players, he got hammered for it. And it wasn't like he was supposed to fall. They were supposed to fall down like that. I saw him just let him score. Let him score. Get the ball back and give the ball to John. Let him that he did. John threw the pass to Alvarez. He got the record. But now it's cast as, well, what a terrible thing this was that Florida did. Dickey was a beat. And that's just the thing that's wrong. So things like that, I want to be able to share in a book and say, let me tell you the real story of what happened.
Well, John Reeves was my neighbor when I was little, and I literally have a memory of him from when I was in first grade talking about that game. So that was something that he was proud of.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, but talking old school. Well, that's good. Allie, what did you talk about on your show tonight? I'm sorry.
I had a Miami beat writer on, and then I went on his show. I did kind of I go live with the preview. Last year I did it on Thursdays, but I have a high school football player this year, so I got to do it on Wednesdays because of JV football. But it's so interesting to listen to Miami fans this week, and I've gotten so many of them that have been in my mentions on social media or sent me private messages and stuff, and I have come to find, I think that there are two different standards between our two programs. Every Miami fan I've talked to has said this game means so much more for Coach Napier than it does for Cristobal. And their reasoning is Florida could lose to Miami and they could still run the table. But if Florida were to lose to Miami, it becomes hard to find wins. And so my question to them was, well, then what would Miami's record be with Florida's schedule? And the beat writer said it would be over under 6.5 games. So honestly, so you don't actually think your team is further ahead than this Florida team. You think your team has an easier path. And I just don't know that like it's an acceptable answer to be fine where your coach is and where your team is because you play in an easier conference. But that is kind of you're hanging their hat on at the moment.
That's a fact. That's a fact. We saw Florida State get drilled into the ground by Georgia Tech the other day. And now Florida State can still come back and win the ACC and be exactly where they want to be when it comes to the playoffs. But it's going to be fascinating to see how this all plays out. And I'm not real sure how good Miami really is, to be honest with you. I ended up picking the Gators by about a field goal. And so we'll see.
247 Sports ran a simulation where they ranked everybody's talent on their roster and where they fall. And Florida actually is a tick better than Miami roster wise, which I think is interesting and obviously doesn't take into account specific position groups and how that plays a role. But I do kind of feel like these are two programs in a very similar place. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens on Saturday. I think the swamp comes into play because I think these teams are decently evenly matched. But, it matters for recruiting the state. It matters because Florida plays 8 teams harder than Miami. So if you can't beat Miami, it becomes harder to see where these wins come from.
Well, it just seems to me if it's a different situation for Billy Napier because, as you guys know better than anybody, Florida loses this game on Saturday, it's going to get real ugly real fast.
Yeah, for sure. I got to say a couple things real fast. I want to do a quick commercial. Don't go anywhere. But the idea that Billy Napier is going to be drummed out of Gainesville if he loses this game is laughable.
Yeah.
Somebody told me a story. I don't think it was you, Allie. Someone said they were doing an interview with an out-of-town media guy, writer, about the game. And when the game was over, this is an example of how some, pardon my phrase, dumbass writers from out of town come in and don't know what they're talking about and make ridiculous statements. Like he said, if Billy Napier again loses to Miami, would he be fired that night? I mean, I don't get it.
No.
And to your point, I want to come back to this about how you judge a team. You play easy conference. You play in the hardest state. You play a lot of factors. How does it impact? First of all, I don't care how good he is. Maybe Cam Ward is going to be an All-American. I don't know. But he ain't never experienced nothing like playing in the swamp. Okay? I'm going to tell you about that.
Yep.
Man. To come right back to it, Tony, I want you to get your thoughts. And on this, I just want to say thank you to my sponsors tonight. I mentioned Meldon Law. Of course, our TitanMRI.com is a place you should know about if you have need an MRI in the North Central Florida area. If you have claustrophobia, when you get one of those things, they have open air cages type places. They have to make it as comfortable as they can for you. If you can't get there during the week because you work, they'll make a special appointment for you at night or weekends. And if you don't have insurance, they'll take cash or card. And it's not like it's an enormous amount of money. So if you need an MRI in the Gainesville, Ocala area, Duck City, check out TitanMRI.com. All right, Tony, go ahead. The idea, there's so many, I think they got a wrong line here. That's my opinion. I shouldn't say I've never seen the Miami players, but it seems difficult to me to believe they could be a cohesive unit. When they haven't, come in and play a team like Florida, who's on the rise, but in a place that's below sea level, in a hole where it's the sun's beating down on you. I know it's hot in Miami. It ain't no hot like it is in the swamp with 93,000 maniacal fans screaming their lungs out. And you're going to wear a headset or whatever and say, what? What did you say?
Well,
Tony?
if you've never been in the swamp and been on the field for a game in the swamp, you could tell them how loud it is, but they don't understand until the game starts. And it's good for some quarterbacks. It is very, very disruptive. And so I'm just anxious to see the whole tenor of this game. It's a game that, like Allie pointed out, you want to win for a lot of different reasons. You want to win for recruiting. You want to win to keep your fan base happy. And so it's going to be well. Saturday's going to be just a fun day overall. I mean, and with those 3 ABC games, that's going to be awesome.
Monsters.
It's going to be the 7th circle of hell, temperature-wise, in Gainesville, at 3:30 in August. And so that's definitely going to be a factor. But I think the Cam Ward we see week 1 will probably look very different than the Cam Ward we see week 10. And so I understand Miami being psyched about signing him. He was the number 1 transfer portal quarterback. I just think there is going to be a learning curve. It's his first time in a Canes uniform. It's the first time with the microphones and the headset. It's in the toughest place that he will play the entire season. Miami fans have told me all week that playing at Oregon and playing at Washington is just as tough as playing in the swamp. I'm going to ask that question again after the game on Saturday. It's not the same. So I just think repeatedly this week we have heard we have the quarterback advantage. We have the quarterback advantage. Florida has the quarterback advantage. Does that mean that Graham Mertz is going to be drafted higher than Cam Ward? No, it doesn't mean that. But it means that on Saturday, Cam Ward is going to be uncomfortable. Right. And Graham Mertz is probably not. And I see that comment why you can't find our show. I don't know. If you find me on Twitter, it's pinned right on the top. And if you check out my YouTube, maybe you can see it there, Wayne.
All right. And Gabe says he remembers Tom McEwen's breakfast menu. That was one of his big things for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So Tony, I'm trying to figure out how they arrived at this line. Now I grant you, I respect the guys in Vegas. And they do it with a formula. It's based on who's betting the money on which way. But the line is open at 2.5 and stayed there. I'm thinking, who is making this line? Who wrote about these two teams? Could they base it off of last year's results? Because it's not the same thing. And did they make it? Did the bots make this line? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how he got it, but we got this 2.5, and I think it's a wrong line every now and then.
All I know is I am amazed at how good these people are doing it. Because when you get there and it's, it'll be a 3-point game and the line's 2.5 and it's a 3-point game. And I'm going, what? Well, as my man, Wes Durham always said, there's a reason that these guys in Vegas drive nice cars and live in big houses. They know something, and I don't see how they do it, but that's it is going to be fun.
I know we try to put a good spin on it from here because we want to believe it. I think we all like Billy Napier and want him to succeed. Hunger for this program to turn around and bring back respectability. But it just feels like some things are different. And Allie, you follow it pretty closely. What feels different to you? Besides, we know the defensive staff is completely different. I look for some really big plays out of LJ McCray, maybe a pick 6 by whoever, something big to happen on defense. I don't expect them to not be able to get a team off the field like they could last year. What do you see different, especially about the defense, Allie?
Well, honestly, I think the strength and conditioning staff change is going to be the biggest factor for this team. I think we're going to see a tougher team, a team that is able to be more physically dominant. And that was missing. This isn't a team that wasn't in shape. Last year, Florida was not gassed in the fourth quarter, but they were pushed around the entire game. They did not have what I consider an SEC caliber strength and conditioning program. They made that change this offseason. I do think that that's going to be one of the biggest differences that we see this year. But, Florida couldn't be worse on defense, right? They need to take a step in the right direction. I think that they picked up some really good pieces in the transfer portal. I think Asa Turner is going to be huge for Florida. I'm really excited to watch Joey Slackman on the defensive line. If you look at this roster that was just picked out, Aaron Childs and Graham both broke the 2 deep at linebacker. I think that's huge. I think the linebacker room is probably the room on defense that made the biggest transformation. I think it's a position of strength for Florida now. We would not have said that last season. I think the pieces are in place. And at this point, this roster is 80 to 90% Coach Napier's players. So we can no longer use the excuse that, these are Dan Mullen's guys and we need to wait till Napier gets his pieces in place. They're here. They're in place. He's made some hard changes on his coaching staff in several different areas. And, I think they're trending in the right direction. Everything we've heard this whole summer is that this is a more intense team, that we're going to see a better product on the field. But, now it's show me time.
Well, I know Tony's getting time for his milk and cookies and time to get to bed. So, and I'm not going to keep you too much longer, but I just want to know, in picking this game, if you thought about it yet, I was asked by Shane Matthews on the fly, give me a score, and I thought, oh man, I don't know. I don't think about it too much, but I gave my score. If you had to lay down your money tonight and you had to pick a team, at 2.5, Tony, which way do you go?
I'd probably go with the Gators, 31-27, something along those lines. Okay. About a 4-point game.
Okay.
Yep.
Allie?
I have said on my previous show 28-21. I do think it's a close ball game, but I think Florida wins.
It's funny, we're all kind of close. I picked 27-21.
There you go.
So we're all kind of close here. Well, we'll see how it goes, but it certainly is going to be a wonderful Saturday.
Yeah.
And man, I can't wait. Unfortunately, I can't be able to watch all those games because I'll be up at the press box. But it's an exciting time. The season of seasons is here. 16 teams in the SEC, 12 teams in the playoff. Let's play ball, Tony. You ready?
I'm ready. I was ready 2 weeks ago, at least. And people said, are you ready for football season? I said, you mean like I have a choice? I mean, come on. No, I was ready to play about 2 weeks ago, but I'm glad it's finally here. And what's interesting, guys, we hadn't talked about this. CBS is gone.
Yeah.
CBS is gone. CBS will not be doing games, but those 3 games, Georgia, Clemson, Florida, Miami, and Texas A&M Notre Dame, are all going to be on ABC, network television. And the smart people tell me that's a really big deal to have all 3 of those games on network television.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss that CBS song, though.
Oh. Yeah, it's been around for a long time. Allie, I think it commemorating your grandfather, you should reach over and get that helmet and strap it on, get ready for the season.
There you go. All right.
All right. Look at this.
Look at that.
Hey, all right. We are the boys from old Florida.
We're ready.
She's suited up. She's ready to play it, Tony.
Well, I tell you what, football has when football season finally gets here, life has sort of a rhythm to it as you go through, because you know where you're going to be just about every day.
Yeah.
And I promise you, here we're sitting here, our first weekend of college football. We're going to look up in about 2 days, and it's going to be Thanksgiving. Okay, that's how fast it's going to go by.
We'll say, remember we talked about we couldn't wait for it to be. It's over. Oh no, right? So I'm looking forward to it.
So, how many SEC teams you got in the playoffs? I got 4. What about Allie? How many SEC teams you got in the playoff? 4?
I think 4. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'm at 4 also.
And I'm going to hear so many people complaining, but you know what I really want to see happen in the playoffs? I would love it if Florida State, I mean, I don't want them to beat us at the end, but I think it would be very apropos if they were on the table and have 1 loss and then argue that they should get in over a 12-0 Power 5 or group of 5 school.
And by the way, I meant to bring that up. We talked about the variables a while ago that, Tony, we discussed this last week, I believe, that if they are what they say they are, and they are going to adjust because of the strength of schedule, there's no way they can take a situation with, say, a 9-4 Missouri team, an 8-4 Florida team, and say the better record gets to go. Because with the schedule Missouri's got, I mean, it'd be ridiculous. But you got to make an adjustment for the strength of schedule, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. You've got to. It's who'd you play, who'd you beat, where'd you beat them. And
Well,
that is the key to all. And what the selection committee will have a tough job this year because because here's what's going to happen. There'll be obviously the 4 conference champions are in. You know that whoever they are, they're in.
Yeah.
All right. Now you're going to give a slot to the group of 5. They're in, and now you got what? How many is that? 6 slots left, 7 slots left, and there's going to be 30 teams that can all lay claim to one of those 7 slots. That's going to be the toughest part in this thing.
Yeah.
Is that in the past we've had for 14 playoff, we've had when we get to November, we got 7, 8 teams, maybe with a legitimate chance to get in a 14 playoff. 12-team playoff, you're going to have 20, 25 teams with legitimate. Because if you got 2 losses and you play in the SEC, ought to be in.
I mean, didn't we have a 2-loss team win the national championship? We did, didn't we?
That would be the LSU Tigers of 2007.
Correct.
I mean, well, think about, Miami, we talk about how they could lose this game and run the table. So say they win the ACC and they lost to Florida, and Florida goes 8-4, but played a much tougher schedule. Who's really more deserving?
That's what's going to be interesting.
Well, that's why the conference champions are really the key, because the conference champions are getting in no matter what.
Yeah.
But what's interesting to see is what happens to the conference champions loser, because if they are not given enough respect, I could see conferences like the SEC maybe deciding that we don't need a conference championship if it's going to keep a team out that would have gotten in otherwise.
I'm going to be very surprised if the SEC championship game loser is not in. Yeah. They would have had to bring a crummy. But you're not going to get in the SEC championship game because you're no longer doing divisional play.
Right.
You've got, and because of that, you're going to get the best 2 teams in the league. Right. Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. There's all sorts of things going on.
It's going to be nice to watch.
I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I guess it's the best. And I don't want to de-emphasize the SEC championship game, but it won't be divisional winners. It could be Georgia and Alabama, whatever. Or it could be Georgia, Florida, whatever. Guys, I want to thank you for helping me through this off season, carrying me to the finish line, and I'm looking forward to talking to you during the year. Have a great season. Enjoy, Tony. Enjoy. We don't have any left of these. Let's do it in style. You want to?
Absolutely.
All right.
All right, guys. Take care.
All right.
You bet.
Thank you, Allie. And I want to remind folks about Allie's show. She's on now. Are we going to have to switch our shows on Wednesday night? The other night?
We might have to. We'll have to see how if this is a common thing that's going to happen or not.
All right, whatever works for you.
All right. Well,
all right. Thank you so much. Have a great time this weekend. Okay.
You too. Talk soon.
A great Allie Wilbur. Thank you, Pete. All right, folks. I want to say thank you and good night. I want to talk about my friends over at Renstar Medical Research, which is a group of people I think are quite special. And I encourage you to know more about them if you don't, because they're doing wonderful things in our community in Ocala. Not only is a responsible stakeholder downtown Ocala, the city, but also in the community and sports and in doing things for you medically. I wasn't aware of how important these clinical trials are that they have. And I realize now they are very critical in terms of determining what kind of medications we're going to get here in our area. They do these studies, they come out with the results, and they ship the results to the biomedical companies, and they adjust, I'm sure, whatever prescriptions they have, as I understand it. Now, I'm not a doctor, and find out what has to be done differently for us. And that's like tailor-made prescriptions. So if you need to know about that, and by the way, even more reason why you might want to consider volunteering for one of these, it's these clinical trials. You go online at renstar.net and find out what you have to do to qualify, and then you could get paid for time and travel, a compensation, and you're doing something to help your fellow man. I sure would like to see you look into it and check it out. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. I want to thank you folks for listening and watching tonight. Thank you to Dan Bond for stepping up earlier. We had a few difficulties on our technology and did a great job. And don't forget to read his story coming up tomorrow on online on GatorBait. I don't know if you haven't subscribed, go to GatorBaitMedia.com and sign up. And also the great Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, and Allie Peak Wilbur, two really terrific people to talk football with. On their behalf and on behalf of the sponsors of this program, I want to say have a great night. And we'll see you tomorrow night. We'll have our last Orange and Blue Bloods Thursday. And Ben Troop will be here, along with Franz Beard, and along with Lauren Meadows, who, by the way, is hosting a lot these days. Have you seen Lauren? Pretty good stuff, right? All right. Good night, folks.